Back with our own job summit. I thought, why don't we talk to some people who have actually created jobs? We have economist David Malpass. He's the president of Encima Global, and he's a columnist for Forbes. Joe Lane, he is the principal of Sinter Partners, private investment firm. He also served as the CEO of GE Technology Finance. He is also the former president of IBM Credit Corporation. Mark Mix is the president of National Right to Work. And Charles Payne, CEO of Wall Street Strategies and contributor on the Fox Business Network. We're also opening up the phone lines. We're going to take some phone calls here in a little while. The number is 888-TEL-FOX, 888-TEL-FOX. Okay. I'm looking at what is the number 5, taxpayer dollars for green jobs. This is one of the things that SEIU came up with yesterday. Well, we got taxpayer money for green jobs. Doesn't it go back to your idea of government says let's create jobs? I'd be for a Manhattan Project if it would change the paradigm of energy. But that's not, hey, let's create a bunch of jobs. That is, let's create a paradigm-changing energy source that will create jobs once we found it. Shouldn't that be the way we're looking? What am I missing here?
No, absolutely. That would be a business-like approach. What's the end game? What's the goal? The goal is not to hire more people to attach solar panels on roofs. Those are jobs.
What about
that's
caulking?
Not getting us
the whole caulking. They came up with the idea of caulking, cash for caulking, where.
Right. Hard to say. And there's no denying that weatherization can be an important component, but it's not the be-all, end-all. I mean, again.
You don't think that's going to turn the country around?
Slowly.
Slowly? Yeah, right.
And the problem with dollars for green jobs is how many dollars? So are we going to end up paying $150,000 for a $50,000 job? That's the way all the government job creation programs end up doing it.
Well, and from the SEIU perspective, Glenn, one of the things about government jobs with federal money is that President Obama signed an executive order back in February that said any federal job or any job construction project that has $1 of federal money will be done by guess who? Union-only construction companies.
But was it New Hampshire?
Yeah.
I love the people
in New Hampshire. They pushed back.
They did.
They did.
And they didn't win because it didn't go to court.
Right.
But didn't the federal government say, we've decided not to do that?
Well, that's right. They let a $35 million PLA contract to build a building up in New Hampshire, and about 150 small business contractors decided to push back and say, you haven't even told us how this is going to work, but we do know one thing. It's going to be union-only construction jobs, and I think all of the bidders that would have had to come from Massachusetts to build that project, nobody in New Hampshire.
What do you think about the idea that union members are the only ones paying taxes?
Well, that's ridiculous.
No. I mean, if they're the only ones that can get the federal money, why don't we just give the federal money to the people who paid the taxes, and if you're not a member of the unions, then you don't have to pay taxes?
Well, that sounds exciting. That sounds exciting.
I'm totally cool
But
with
it's a cynical approach. It's a cynical approach of creating jobs. Somehow, the model for the SEIU and the AFL-CIO and the Teamsters and the rest of organized labor is that in order to create jobs, we got to somehow stymie employee choice. We got to stymie the relationship between an employer and an employee, and we got to inject this forced unionism mantra and this control over employees to create jobs. It's ridiculous.
But isn't I'm trying to think, because again, I looked at the, SEIU, United Steelworkers, American Federation of Teachers, at a job creation summit, and I'm thinking, how would you describe the union? Maybe, if you're not being cynical, job protectors, or
at best.
I look at them in many cases. I think unions, in some cases, are absolutely necessary, but most times they grow into these horrible institutions where they're business destroyers.
Voluntary unionism is in fashion anytime. Compulsory unionism is out of fashion at any time.
Right.
And the fact is, what they're pushing is compulsory unionism. I mean, they want everybody who's going to be participating in this federal jobs summit or any money that comes from it to pay union dues. That's what it's about, so they can elect more politicians to get more power, to have politicians pass more legislation that gives them more political dues.
There's another major disconnect among people who haven't been in business, either in business or starting businesses, and that is a healthy appreciation of the difference between spending and investing. You spend a grant.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You spend a grant, but you invest after-tax earnings, you invest profits, you invest recaptured taxes that you paid 5 years ago because you can now reach back and get those back from the companies that actually paid the tax. It's not a redistribution of wealth. It's not taking it from other people. Allowing companies to go back and recapture some of the taxes they paid in the robust years of 2004, 2005. This is a positive thing. That NOL carryback option has the potential to introduce $33 billion of immediate cash into the economy. And the cost measurement says maybe $10 billion over 10 years. And if you took it out 20 years, it's almost zero.
I've never worked for a company, and maybe you guys have, I've never worked for a company that was in its vibrant stage where people said, you got to spend that before the end of the year. Just spend it, otherwise you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
The companies that are in vibrant stages, they say, no, wait. You can save that money? Great. Let's apply that over here. Exactly. And they're looking for ways to save money, to invest it, not just spend it. I don't care if it's on boxes of tape, just spend it or we're going to lose it. That's the government point of view. It's just spend it because we have it sitting here, or we just had it shipped over to us from China in digits. So, I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Really, the only summit you want in Washington isn't a job summit, but a how Washington can get out of the way of jobs kind of summit. So they had it backwards.
Leave us alone. Just leave us alone. Okay. Let me go to Charles Payne. Is Charles there?
I'm here.
Because I know you've got to go and you hit the Cavuto show on the Fox Business Network. Bigger name. I know. I get it.
Well, I'm going to host the show, so I'm kind of excited about it.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to watch.
Okay.
Anything to add before you leave?
Everything that you guys are talking about, you're giving the administration credit as if they're really thinking that this is going to work. I think they designed this, and everything you guys have brought up, they're too smart to not understand what you're saying. For me, this whole thing is about control, but it's also a slap in the face to say you're going to invite 6 or 7 unions, a couple of leftist think tanks, and 2 green. Well, who's the Green Bank, and how many jobs have they created, all for the small business? This is about control, and they understand the dangers and the risk, but they want to take it.
Charles, do you see anything here, or do you see anything on the horizon that you say, just if it goes through, just not going to recover from it?
It could be health. It could be the health care reform. It could certainly be cap and trade. And I think, obviously, if we do all of the above, I'm worried. I believe in America so much and so passionately that somehow I think we can recover for almost anything. But Glenn, the trifecta of things that they have coming down this road at us is amazing. It's going to be hard to overcome.
All right. If you had any doubt at all on the impact on America from small business, take a look at this. You have it?